Most people think that food urges show up because food is just tempting or because they're tired, which can be true, or most people think they've lost discipline. But here's something that I want to challenge you with is that urges don't appear actually at the peak of stress, they often show up after it. You know, after the meeting ends, after you put the kids to bed, after you've finally sat down after a long day of work. And that timing isn't random. It tells us a lot more about what's actually going on than the food itself ever will. If you're new here, hi, my name is Suzie. I help people transform their lives by ending binge and emotional eating so food feels effortless without relying on more willpower, more rules and discipline, cutting out your favorite foods, calorie counting, surgery, weight loss meds, or starting over every Monday. My approach changes how your mind and nervous system respond to food so it stops taking up so much mental space and so that you can feel calmer and more present in your life. If you find this video helpful or valuable, please hit the like button, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe for weekly content. I am now posting videos every Monday. I'm sorry, the schedule keeps changing, but I've actually found a schedule that works now. So every Monday I'll be posting a long form video here on YouTube. Let's start with something that sounds kind of counterintuitive. When your day is full of deadlines, conversations, movement, pressure, your brain is prioritizing output. It is essentially just trying to get through. It's trying to keep up. It's holding everything together. During high demand, the brain actively suppresses internal signals that aren't immediately necessary for survival or performance. So that can include things like your hunger cues, your fatigue signals, your emotional information. It's not that those signals disappear, it's just that they're postponed. A good way to picture this is like your email inbox while you're offline. Messages are still arriving, you just don't see them until the Wi-Fi reconnects to your device. So when things finally slow down, the system then reconnects, and all of those signals arrive at once in your inbox. That's often when the urge actually shows up. From a nervous system perspective, this makes complete sense. During stress, your body is more sympathetically activated, alert, mobilized, and it's focused outwards. Interoceptive awareness, so your ability to sense internal states, that drops during this time. And so only when the nervous system downshifts does the body actually have the capacity to notice itself again, if you will. That is why people often say things like, oh, I wasn't even thinking about food, and then suddenly I wanted to eat everything. I just couldn't help myself. If you think about it this way, it's kind of similar to how the majority of pain can show up after an injury. So, it's not during the adrenaline rush or when the shock has hit. It's normally when the body feels safer, so it's after. So the urge to binge or emotional eat is not new, it's just late. So why food? Because food is one of the fastest, most reliable regulators the nervous system knows, and your brain is not stupid and you are not stupid, okay? Eating affects a lot of things in your body, including things like your blood sugar, your dopamine, your serotonin, your parasympathetic activity, and it changes state very quickly. So when the system finally has the space to register your unmet needs, like your energy, your rest, your grounding, food often becomes the loudest signal because it's the most effective and it's the one that we are most used to using and then instantly feeling an amazing feeling after. It's incredibly effective, and so it doesn't mean that the urge is necessarily about the food itself. It means that the food is the easiest language that the body has learned to use. And the food has historically helped you cope with stress, overstimulation, emotional overload. The brain will reach for that automatically when the processing resumes. So that's not you being a failure, that's learning history. So this is where most people get it wrong. They treat the urge as a command or that they've done something wrong. So I must eat, or it's a moral verdict, if you will, like, oh, I shouldn't want this, I'm bad for doing this. But urges are neither instructions nor indictments. They are information just arriving a little bit late. So when you react automatically, either by fighting or collapsing into the urge, then the issue is that you are missing the message. But the good news is that when you interpret it, something shifts inside of you. You move from what's wrong with me, very self-attacking, to what is my system flagging that it needs right now? And that question alone often lowers your urgency. So here's one of the most useful distinctions that I teach clients. When an urge appears, often matters more than actually what you are craving, what the urge to binge is asking for. An urge shows up, it can show up after work. Maybe you're a caregiver, after sustained focus, after emotional restraint, lots of things. So that's usually pointing to transition, not temptation. The mistake most people make is responding to what they want as opposed to when it's happening. You know, they assume if I want food, I must be out of control and I shouldn't be doing this. But instead, you need to recognize, no, my system is coming out of suppression. It is data and I need to respond accordingly. And when you misread the timing, it can lead to lots of things like over control. Like, I need to be strict to rules, self blame, or reactive eating without actually understanding. And none of those solve the pattern. None of those solve the issue and the pattern that you are experiencing. We know from neuroscience and behavioral research that interoceptive signals are processed much more clearly when attentional load decreases. So habits are strongly cue dependent and are often triggered by state changes, not conscious desire. And nervous system downshifting is when emotional and physiological information becomes available for processing. Listen carefully, okay? I want you to understand that when your urges appear, at moments of stillness, it is not because your discipline has failed. It's not because you have a lack of willpower. It is because processing has been able to resume. And that is a very different story. The two things are very, very different. So here is a simple way to work with this. When an urge shows up, try asking just one question. What just ended? Not what do I want? You can be asking those questions, but that comes later down the line. So not what do I want, but what demand just dropped away and left space for me to contemplate and for the urge to come in. Was it work? Was it noise? Was it responsibility? Emotional containment? And here's the other thing not to do. You do not want to rush to suppress or satisfy the urge immediately. You want to give yourself a short pause. We call this the power of the pause. 20 to 30 seconds doesn't need to be that long, but this is just to let the information land and to give you a chance to contemplate things. It's not about controlling your situation, it's about decoding, if you will. And once that signal has space to be understood, the urge will often soften, or it at least becomes less urgent. So just to leave you with this, urges don't mean that you are failing. Cravings don't mean that you're failing. They don't mean that you're weak or that you're out of control, okay? Please remember that. They mean that your system finally has a chance to speak, it has space to let you know what's going on. And learning to listen rather than fight or obey is what actually changes your relationship with food in the long term. If this resonates with you, I break this down much more clearly inside my free masterclass. And that goes over how food habits form, why willpower backfires when you only rely on willpower, and how to respond to urges without rules or overthinking. You can watch it here. I'll put the link there, and you can also find it in the description box below. So just click on that link and that'll take you there. And if you want a really simple tool to help you decode urges in real time, I have also created an emotional eating urge map. This isn't made to fix you or to change everything all at once, but it's just designed to help you understand what your system may actually be asking for in the moment. Okay, now your takeaway for this week, and I would love you to try this. This week, I want you to notice when your urges or cravings show up. Not what they're for, but when they appear, okay? A really simple question to ask yourself is, what just ended? What has just happened? Or what demand just dropped away? That timing usually tells you far more than the food itself or the food that you're craving itself. And understanding always comes before change. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, you can leave a comment below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Or you can contact me using the link in the description box below. Have a great rest of your week and I will see you next Monday. Bye.